Hi, everybody, and welcome to the $1 Billion Banker podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Perrone, and today I have Tina Cervasio with us. Tina?
Hi, Nicole.
Thanks for joining us.
I mean, it is an honor. Thank you so much for asking me.
I could barely hold back. Like, I'm asking her questions. I'm like, let's just start.
We have to start.
Yeah, we have to get started here because I'll just ask her everything before we begin. But
and love being here. Big fan of the podcast. Got to meet you through an organization. So this is really an honor to be here.
Yeah, same. We're so happy to have you. We were just talking about Tina's background. And for those of you that are sports lovers, you've seen Tina on Fox 5. She's one of the anchors there. And she plays a ton of roles in journalism and in the broadcast world. She's going to tell us all about that today. And we met, as you said before, through the Pass the Crown Around event at the district in Jersey City. And it was a phenomenal event. And you were nominated as Woman of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, it was such, again, an honor, a surprise.
That was great.
And what a great organization. I guess that was their third annual women's. It was specifically on International Women's Day.
Yes.
And they had previous brunches and lunches at 1776 in Morristown, New Jersey. And I got to know Sue Vorsheimer, the organizer, founder, everything you could possibly think of, public relations, business, all the things with
all the hats,
all the
crowns.
Pass the crown. Exactly. She wears all the crowns. I got to meet her through a story that I did during the pandemic. We were just kind of coming out of our homes and Topgolf had just opened up in Morristown with 1776, this beautiful, huge restaurant right on the green in beautiful Morristown. If you know of it, you're like, oh yeah, the green. Yep. And wanted to do a story, things to do where we could still say socially distance, but we could start coming together and going indoors. And I did a whole thing on going into the golf simulator. And that's how I met Sue.
Oh, there you
go. Back in
like
2021. And then friendship developed, but it also was, I had a friend that works in golf. My friend Christina Thompson owns a golf business, golfforher.com.
Nice.
She had events with Sue. Then I covered the Pass the Crown Around brunch event in 24. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Covered it as a news story.
It before you were nominated.
Yes.
Okay.
Got to meet people there, stayed for the luncheon.
And who was the Woman of the Year then? That was
Angelina Vivolo Ciccone.
Okay.
And she is a producer. She used to work in news, ABC, executive producer, you name it, then left and started her own production company, Tell Her Vision. And a lot of her stuff.
I like that.
Yeah, she's hired to do projects, and she's also working on her own show, and it's about women in business. And so she's growing her brand, and she, again, many hats.
Yeah. Look, the whole woman in business thing is really, and I want to stay here because, you've seen firsthand how women in sports broadcasting have gained more visibility throughout the years. Where do you think the industry still needs to grow? And what progress are you most proud of that you've already witnessed?
I think what I'm most proud of is you could turn on a sports show. You can have 2 female anchors, female reporter, female analyst, might even have a female producer in the background, and now we don't have to say anything about it.
Yeah.
Because it used to be a big deal. It used to be a big deal when one woman was sitting next to a man doing Sports Center. Or if they had a lead reporter on an NFL story, that was a big deal. So-and-so broke a story as a woman, So now I feel
oh my gosh, this just in.
Really? And so I love how that's sort of becoming the norm. I mean, we had a show a couple of weeks ago, and somebody mentioned it to me, and I didn't even notice it. Sports Extra is the show I host Sunday nights on Fox 5 New York. And I'm the lead sports anchor. We have a reporter in the field each week, Jennifer Williams. I think she was at the Yankees game that day, Yankees or Mets, whoever was home a couple weeks ago. And my guests were women. My guest analyst to talk about the New York Knicks and the playoffs was Monica McNutt, who works at ESPN and MSG Network. And then my guest athlete was Carly Lloyd, who's getting into the National Soccer Hall of Fame, New Jersey native. So we had all the tie-ins, played pro for Gotham FC, is a part owner, all the things.
Yeah.
And we kind of just did the show and went along, and it was a great show, lots of content. And a friend of mine mentioned it to me, hey, I noticed that was awesome.
That's
like,
great.
oh, we didn't notice it. That's what made it even better.
So now it's just becoming part of the norm. And then now before broadcast television, you were in radio. Tell us about your experience as a woman leading the way there too.
So love radio because there's so much more opportunity for me to talk. So whether I'm doing sideline reporting, which is like a 20-second hit, or even my shows. So when I anchor sports on Good Day New York in the mornings, 2.5 to 3 minutes, and then you're out. My show on Sunday nights is really only 22 minutes of material because we have so many commercials. You have to pay for the show. You have to pay the producer and the talent and all the different people and put the lights on. So those goes to ad sales. But radio opens up hours of just talking about sports. And I worked at Sirius XM NBA radio for a while, would fill in. It started doing updates early in my career on WFAN and then even Bloomberg Radio. I mean, built my way up, and then to actually do talk radio on NBA radio was awesome. To be a host,
be so cool.
So that was a great experience.
Do you have a favorite sport?
I mean, I do. I always say football was my first love.
Okay.
So that was the first sport that I really started to follow with my dad. I mean, he played college football at Cornell, so we would go back to games a lot, whether it was homecoming or if Cornell was playing Princeton or Columbia. A lot of my mom's cousins or uncles were high school football coaches. So we would go to Uncle John's Friday night under the lights in Belleville, New Jersey, football game, and then Uncle Joe's freshman football game on Saturday morning. So it was really my first love, around football a lot.
Dad's got to take some credit then for...
He does get the credit for that. But love the flow of an NBA season. I covered the Knicks for seven years. And loved being able to go to shoot around in the morning and then have the game at night, or just chit-chatting with players, maybe before a game while they're just, shooting free throws or stretching out. I love that. There's also less players, so you get to know them personally when you're covering an NBA team. Love soccer because I always say soccer has just been my guardian angel. It's kind of always swooped in for job situations. Tried to play soccer, didn't play well. Didn't do well with the ball at my feet.
That wasn't it.
Yeah. But it was always something that was in my background. I was the manager of the women's soccer team at the University of Maryland. Made best friends out of that. Learned everything from sports business to living like an athlete.
Yeah.
Being around that women's soccer team, I would travel with them. Everything from carrying balls to running and training with them too.
That's incredible.
So little things like that with soccer. And then baseball I covered for 2 years with the Boston Red Sox.
Red Sox, I was going to say. That's got to be...
2007 was a good year for those Red Sox, winning the World Series. I got to cover a no-hitter, all kinds of stuff.
Incredible.
But that is a grueling season.
Oh, I bet.
So any broadcaster that I see covering baseball, I know what they went through. I also can advocate for the $750+ million that Juan Soto makes because it is a grueling season.
Yeah.
And you still have to put the bat on the ball.
Oh, yeah.
So things like that.
I would say the same goes with kids, with their sports. I'm just choose an indoor sport. So I don't have to be standing in the rain.
Yes.
So I would probably
goodness.
Put me to the basketball court. But you reported iconic teams. I mean, you said the Knicks, the Red Sox. I mean, what's the secret to building trust with these high profile athletes?
So I had to learn that on the fly with the Red Sox because I was sort of, working my way up through the industry. I was a local reporter. So you go to practice. So everybody's standing around the player and you stick your mic in and you just start asking questions. And then you start becoming more familiar and you do have to introduce yourself. I'm so-and-so from Channel 5. I mean, I think if I had $1 for every time I said to Eli Manning, Tina Cervasio, Fox 5 New York. And finally one day he was like, Tina, I know.
Tina, I know who you are.
Because I just don't know if they remember who you are because I'm not there every day. And that's the challenge as a local reporter in my job now. I have to choose, which quarterback am I going to Jets Giants today? Because they both speak at 2:00 on Wednesdays.
Right.
So it's where's the bigger story? Where do I go? So that's the challenge. And then you have, Yankees and Mets playing all these different hours. But the beauty of when I got to cover the Red Sox and the Knicks is I was with that team every single day.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
That's where I learned how to
became
really
part of the
build true relationships.
Yeah.
I was on their planes and everything. It's a unique job
great.
when you're the team reporter on the local broadcast, the regional broadcast. And I used to ask people advice for that. And a former player used to say to me, just be really nice at first so they know you're not nice and you're not there to attack them. And, respect them and they're going to respect you. But also be honest, I don't understand this. Could you explain that pitch to me? Or could you show me that grip? Sorry, I never threw a slider. And they'll like that honesty from you. And even asking the managers, Terry Francona at the time, strategy things. When you're doing this, what would be the best way you want me to ask that question?
Yeah.
And that helped build relationships with
so they
a
knew
lot
that
of
you
them.
respected them. You weren't trying to get, a tough interview question by
exactly.
them.
And in those roles, I wasn't trying to break news and I wasn't supposed to break news.
Yeah.
It was about telling stories, giving background and information and also just getting emotion out of the players. So that was always the challenge. How can I get emotion out of the players, make them human? So that was always my goal. It's cool to break a story when someone's getting traded.
Yeah.
That's cool and all that, but that was never my goal. My goal is how can I get an emotional, honest response.
Yeah.
How can I, whether, I got to interview Carmelo Anthony after he scored 62 points at the Garden, broke a record.
Yes.
And it was like one of the best interviews he and I ever had.
Oh.
I was a nervous wreck, but I was like, it's Carmelo.
He was probably like just high, like high
He
on
was
the
still in
feeling
his
of-
zone.
Yeah.
He was, and I was like, Carmelo, you smile, you love this game. You weren't smiling. Where did that come from? And he talked about this zone that he was in from before the game and a clip that the coach showed. What was that clip? Like all this great stuff because he felt comfortable with me, even though 20,000 people were watching us in the arena screaming.
Yeah.
And then we also, of course, had the people watching on TV.
The energy is like,
Yeah.
it's so exciting. Like you still
Yes.
feel it as a reporter, I'm sure, the same way you'd
Oh,
feel it
yeah.
like if you were in the fan, like
yes.
in the bleachers, right?
Oh,
You're
my
like,
gosh.
oh my goodness.
And sometimes that's the story. I mean, half the
Yeah.
time when we're doing Knicks stories now with the playoffs, it's about the feeling and the energy and can you hear yourself even think?
Yes.
It's so loud in the
yeah.
Garden with certain games like
what a
that.
vibe. And you're not going to be there tonight for the
I
Knicks
am
game.
not.
Tomorrow, tell us what you're doing tomorrow.
So I've become a little bit of a Swiss Army knife, which is good,
Yes.
which is important at this stage in my career. So I started filling in news, and I never thought I would want to do news. To become a broadcaster, though, when I was a young girl, Diane Sawyer and Barbara Walters, Oprah Winfrey, they were the ones that set the tone. I wanted to be like them.
Yeah.
That's who I looked up to. But then I realized I had a passion in sports. And then I realized what Leslie Visser was doing and Linda Cohn and Hannah Storm and Robin Roberts. So then I was following their careers, and that's how I became a sports broadcaster. But never thought I would want to leave sports to go to news because I just have such a passion for it. But the opportunity presented itself. And it's a challenge. I mean, I've been covering sports a long time.
Yeah.
So now I'm filling in this week on the 4:30 a.m. Good Day Wake Up Show.
Oh man, we
Which
were
is
just
like-
talking about you got to be in bed at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, so I have to
Or no,
get
you gotta
up.
get
Yeah,
up
get
at
up at
1.
like 1-ish.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, which is the middle of the night. It's not, is it a.m.? Yeah, but it's not really the morning. So I have to kind of do my math. So I'll go to bed like 5, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So Knicks start at 7. So
Gosh,
that'll
good
be
luck
tough.
with
So I'll
that.
do news tomorrow. I mean, the first thing I'll do when I wake up, I'll start. So while I'm getting ready, I'll play the Knicks game.
Okay.
While I'm, in the
There you
shower,
go.
getting ready, doing my makeup.
You'll be watching the highlights and
I
everything.
have the highlights on. I'll go right to the broadcast, DVR it.
Uh-huh.
Same thing going to work. We'll listen
Oh,
to
that's cool.
post-game stuff.
So are you always watching sports? Like is
Always, yes.
yeah, you have to.
But
be.
I have to keep track of news now
Yeah.
for this
And
week too.
How about oh yeah, that's big. How about your husband? Is he a big sports fan?
So yeah, that's the thing. The problem is I can't leave my work at work. When I come home, games are on.
yeah,
And we argue a lot about the Yankees, because I cover the Red Sox for a couple of years
yeah.
there. We argue a lot about football. He works for the Nets. I'm a Knicks fan.
Okay.
Used to cover and work for the Knicks. So we argue about Knicks and Nets and have a
there
good
you go.
time.
Oh, that's
things like
awesome.
that. But we really enjoy having games on.
I think
all the
like
time.
as long as you're good on like politics, religion.
Yes, yeah,
you can disagree on sports,
and we
That's
can
still
agree
not
to
a
disagree on
prerequisite.
something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, it's always a topic. He's a Chiefs fan, so
Okay.
he's been the lucky one for a while, going to the Super
Oh,
Bowl the
yeah.
last few years.
Oh,
but my
yeah.
Giants have not exactly
Yeah. Well, he's
lived.
also got the Nets, so he's got like
Yeah, that's a
he's
good point.
balancing
You're
it
right.
out a little bit.
That's a good point.
So
Thank you, Nicole.
yeah, NFL, NBA,
Mm-hmm.
MLB, Olympics as well. Which sports present like the biggest reporting challenge and why? What are some of the hardest ones
That's
to
a good
cover?
one. I mean, the biggest reporting challenge. I mean, definitely the Olympics, because it's not something you're constantly covering, especially in my
Okay.
roles
Yeah.
every day. Some people cover Olympic sports. That's their job. They work for, say, NBC or the Olympic networks and things like that, or they're a swimming reporter or correspondent. But when I went into a few of those Olympics that I did on the radio for Westwood One, it's going back to, you have to study history. It's just like in school,
Yeah.
you're studying, you're preparing.
Yeah.
Just reading up on different people, going back, watching different competitions.
That's great.
So it's just a lot of prep work. It's
Yeah.
where, I mean, I could just drive in the car and listen to 1,000 things about the Knicks, on
And
your
just-
drive here, or 100 things. I mean, it's always the NFL season. You know what's going on. So because that's what's sports radio, it's local, but
Right.
something
But
like
the
the
Olympics,
Olympics, you have to find the local athletes who made
Mm.
the U.S. Olympic team, whether it's fencing or curling, things like that.
Right.
What are the
Those
local
like you're
stories?
not watching those stories every day.
Right. Yeah. Just because it's, those are not the four big
That's
sports.
exciting that you had the opportunity to do that.
I did that. And I was a little earlier in my career. And I was, like I said, I didn't do well in soccer and a couple sports, softball, but I was a gymnast growing up
Oh, there we go.
and got to cover gymnastics, which
Oh, that's
was
cool.
awesome
That's
in
cool.
Greece. And that was in 2004.
Wow.
Yeah, Carly Patterson won the all-around competition then. And then it was fun. Yeah, that was a great
It's fire.
experience.
You're around, you're surrounded by, talk about your environment. Like you're surrounded by the top, 1% of mindset and attitude.
Great
and
example.
right.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Great
just
point.
like, I always talk about, like, when you're on the treadmill and you're walking, someone next to you is running, all of a sudden
Yes.
you're running. You're like,
wait a
why am I
second.
running now?
Yeah.
Like, I got to keep up with this person here.
I mean, even like, look, I can't, throw a football 40 yards and, throw a touchdown pass in the NFL. But I mean, even players like that, or when I was traveling, good example with either the Knicks or the Red Sox, I'd go do my little workout in the morning and there'd be players in there 6 a.m.
Yeah.
and who works hard or who's like, oh, I saw you working hard in the gym today, and it motivates you. Like, you might not be a world-class athlete, even though you have desire to be, but you could work hard at things
but
and
the bar
train
is like,
and set
because
goals.
you're seeing, because of what you're seeing every day.
Yeah.
Now, like, having been part of the Knicks broadcast team, like that won 7 New York Emmy Awards, what moments from MSG Network stands out like as most career defining for you?
We had such a great, and a lot of them are still there from when 2015 was my last full-time year. 2018 is when I kind of left MSG. Just such talent, the producer, the director, the technical director, the editors were phenomenal at MSG, and a lot of them are still there. So that's why we won so many Emmys, because it's a great team.
That's incredible.
So much talent. Everyone works well together. Even the audio people, I mean, everything, like, because the audios, I mean, I've tried to enter things, and there's one glitch, you can't even enter it. Why bother?
No.
But that's what was so seamless and amazing about the MSG broadcasts. So a couple of really neat moments there. The late Kobe Bryant, he scored 80 points at the Garden. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was 82 was his record. Okay. He scored 60 points at the Garden. Got to witness that. Didn't get to interview him that day, but because he was on the national broadcast and all of that. But to be in that arena and to, the Knicks fans are smart basketball fans to applaud him. I mentioned the Carmelo Anthony moment when he had 62.
Oh, yeah.
That was just an incredible New York Knicks historic moment. Things like that. Let's see. What else with the Knicks? Oh, I was there for Linsanity.
Oh, wow.
Jeremy Lin, 2 weeks of this player that came from Harvard. He didn't play at Kentucky or UNC. He played at Harvard, wasn't even drafted, made his way. He was in the D League, or G League now that they call it. Back then it was the D League, with the Golden State Warriors. Worked his way to the Knicks, saved the Knicks their season while Carmelo Anthony was out with a shoulder injury.
Yes.
And it was so much fun. And he outplayed Kobe Bryant in one of those Lakers games.
That's
so
wild.
That was a really amazing time to be there. And just any game. And I told this story last week, and I told it to Charles Sprewell, who has his own Knicks moments. The Knicks, and I'm pretty sure it was, I think it was 2016, 2014 or 15, one of those seasons. They had 16 wins going into the last game of the season.
Oh, wow.
It's at the Garden. It's fan night. They're trying to get their 17th win. This was not trying to get their 59th win or something like that, or win a playoff game like they're doing now. That place was still loud because Knicks fans love their players. They love their Knicks. They love that, hey, we're at Madison Square Garden watching a game under the iconic ceiling. That place was just as loud as any playoff game. And it was just so cool to see. And that's what I always give credit to the Knicks fans. Those years I was there, they were amazing to me. They were amazing to the team. 16 wins, and they were still on their feet.
That's huge.
When the Knicks won that game.
And you get to like almost connect the players with the fans.
That's my goal. That was always my goal as a sideline reporter.
You're thinking about as you're
there's side stories. What do the fans want to know after a game? And even the little things that I do when I get the opportunity, which is rare, to do stories on players and do sit down interviews. What can I bring out of them that maybe fans don't know, or just a side of them, the way they present something, where it's not like at their locker and 80 people sticking the mics in their face.
Standing
there.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, when you ask them like, why do you love this team? They fall in love with one of the players. They fall in love with their story.
And it's heartbreaking when they're traded or get better
that's
money
tough.
from another team as a free agent and leave.
That is tough.
I was just telling the story the other day. Like, I'm going to miss Daniel Jones. I already miss him. I feel so bad. I feel like, he got injured. He got a raw deal with the Giants. It was bad timing with the offensive line. And it's not always the player's fault, but sometimes, it just wasn't fitting.
It just wasn't fit. Yeah.
So, but he was a good guy.
Yeah,
and he was a tough interview because he was so quiet and not this gregarious kind of an interview like some people are, but he was a good guy. So, I always feel bad when certain players are released or move on. Yeah.
It's tough. And then you stick with your team. Normally people stick with the team, not the player. But, But still, that's a good point.
Oh, a great example, Saquon Barkley. I mean, that was like a year of mourning, and then he's holding the super, the Vince Lombardi trophy, Giants fans are like, oh my God,
Yes,
but I get that
painful.
emotion because he was a great interview and
Yeah.
always available for me.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
I was wondering, so you talked about how you're going to be tomorrow morning or bright and early
Yeah.
doing the news. How do you approach the storytelling like differential for like a morning audience versus a prime time? You're at the games, you're covering the
Yeah.
playoffs.
That is
What's
a
the
great
difference?
question. So a lot of times I got caught, especially when I first started doing morning news sports.
Mhm.
It's a little too inside, a little too much X's and O's, a little too
Okay.
much inside the weeds because I want to talk about formations and different plays and why something broke down, or like even an on base percentage.
Mhm.
In the morning, that audience needs headlines.
Yeah.
They're running out the door.
Yeah.
What can I tell them that they might bring to the water cooler? A little
Mhm.
nugget in that sense. That's
Yes.
kind of fun. Something about Aaron Judge. Maybe the things with Aaron Judge is like, well, yeah, you do want to keep talking about his batting average because it's so crazy. Like, go to
Mhm.
work knowing he's hitting 427.
Mhm.
Go to work knowing that he's been on base 17 out of the last 19 games. Like,
Yep.
you want, even though it's a
Like
little
the quick
inside,
hits,
but
like the snapshots
it's
kinda.
big and historic. So
Okay.
how to kind of differentiate that fun stuff. I'm trying to think of a fun story that I recently did. A good example. So Russell Wilson signs with the Giants as their
Oh,
new
yeah?
quarterback.
Mhm.
Okay, everybody wants to talk about him. Are the Giants going to be good? Quarterback, this, that. You know what? I have video of his wife, the great
Mhm.
Ciara, the
Yeah.
singer, the entertainer.
See, that's another one. Like, I love his story. I love his story with
He's
her.
got a good
and-
story too. Yes.
Yeah.
But her
Mhm.
dancing with Ellie the elephant, who's the New York Liberty's
Oh,
mascot.
right, which I
And,
wanted to ask
oh,
you
by
about
the
the
way, the
Liberties.
Liberty just won the WNBA championship.
Yes.
So I, found that fun video, like little things
Oh,
like
that's
that. I like
cool.
to
I
add to
love
the
that.
story.
And then you were a sideline reporter for New York Liberties, right?
Yes,
That was
yeah.
the women's and WNBA pivotal moment for them.
Awesome
Tell us about that.
finally winning the WNBA championship
Yeah.
after 28 years in the league. This
That's
is,
huge.
one of the original franchises that started the league back in 1997. Got to the finals, got to the playoffs a couple times, had star players, never made it to the promised land. The year before, they lost to the Las Vegas Aces. And Becky Hammond, who, was an icon in the league, former
Yes.
NBA, assistant coach, the whole thing. Liberty make it all the way back to the finals. Again, great general manager that put this team together. Great atmosphere, business plan that the CEO, Kia Clark, put together. So you're in sold out Barclays Center arenas, and then for the kids and for the peripheral kind of outside fans, you've got this elephant that's the mascot that is just as popular as any of the players.
Exactly.
But to have Sabrina
You're
Ionescu,
like, can I interview you?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, always on the broadcast, this elephant, Ellie, amazing. And you have these incredible, great players that they put together. They have a big three: Jonquel Jones, Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu. So they had to create a big three, and they won this. They had a championship parade down the Canyon of Heroes, which was
awesome.
great. And in such a big pivotal year too for the WNBA, as Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese made their transition from incredible college careers to now being like, social media stars. They have 7 million followers on their social, like this whole shift to becoming like, it's not just a sport, it's a social event.
Yeah.
Now.
Like there's a lot of people are like true fans of that to your point of that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's ask you, this is a good question because maybe you're like a fan. So like if you could sit down with any figure in sports history, who would it be and what would you want to ask them?
I know. So that is tough. I always you still feel like you want to sit down with Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to know what he's thinking now. You don't hear from him a ton. And the way that the league has evolved, and when he sees his fingerprints on some things. It also pains me, and I guess it just shows my age, that they're referring so much now, these younger players, to the era of LeBron James, who's still on the court, but that, and the Kobe Bryant era, which is older than LeBron and Shaq and them, but that's starting to fade out.
Yeah.
So just that whole evolution, where would love to know emotionally how he feels, but he's also, hard as nails, but, he loves that game.
Yeah.
How the name's not being brought up as much anymore.
Right.
When these young players talk about who influenced them
Right.
as young boys or young women, because Kobe Bryant was an icon for Sabrina Ionescu.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who
It's like it keeps going down
idolized
the line.
them. So I'm just curious where he stands mentally today.
that would
I'm
be
also, so I'm also super disappointed that I never got to sit down and interview Aaron Rodgers in his 2 very short, tumultuous years with the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Always fascinated. And this was what turns people off about him, but I was always fascinated
I really
about
like Aaron
his
Rodgers,
life
too.
away from football, the way that he embraces this plant medicine and how he's kind of changed his life and the controversies.
He's a bit of like the black sheep kind of.
Yeah,
when it comes to
but
something.
it fascinates me because he is smart. He is really well studied, loves to research things. So I always wanted to sit down and not even about the super controversial stuff, but I loved his health angles.
Yes.
And so I watched his documentary and was towards the end of his Jets career. And I had so many follow-up questions. Well, how long did you do the red light therapy on that scar? How much bone broth did you drink? What exactly were the mushrooms that you use in your coffee in the morning?
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to know like how much lifting and that and this and heart rate. And I like little, because he like those whole biohacks. And so to me, they're not
for that.
Yeah,
that
and
whole,
for a
like,
40-year-old to
recovery
come back from that Achilles injury and just a lot of the unique things he says, I feel like nobody follows up on, like spiritual things. And I know, again, a lot of family controversy and a lot of spiritual controversy and faith with him, but that's what I wanted to talk to him about.
Come
and
on,
he's
Aaron.
gone.
We
don't even have a team for him right now.
Maybe he'll come back. Who knows?
Maybe. I never know.
What's one thing you think people misunderstand about working in sports journalism at a major network?
So for me, I know with the major network, when I do sideline reporting for CBS Sports, which is kind of like my side hustle, do Army football, Army Navy games.
Yes.
What is so wonderful about that job, you have so much support. So games coming up, say it's Army versus Lehigh. I mean, I will get an email with 75 articles curated. This is about the quarterbacks. This is about the defensive matchup, this and that. And I could just sit back and read and prepare and be the best I could be, really stay focused on the sideline job. I could follow the players, who's got a cool story, all the things. In local sports, which I do now, I am the booker, the writer, the researcher, the anchor, the makeup artist.
Oh my goodness.
So it's you're wearing those hats, you know, wearing a lot of crowns again.
All the crowns.
So that's a challenge locally.
Okay.
For me. And how do I serve my audience? That's a challenge for me every day. And sometimes we run out of time. They're like, oh, we're killing the Devils highlights. I'm like, but we just did the Rangers highlights. We're serving the Rangers fan. I know we ran out of time to serve the Devils fan. Like it kills me.
Right.
So that's just like a challenge.
It's nice to hear that, like, that look similar to the way that you have the fans hear about these great athletes. It's like people want to understand you, and the fact that you're really passionate about connecting the dots and telling the story is incredible. And there's so much more that goes into it than just like showing up and being on television, right?
And just talking about the game. Yeah. And there's a lot of production work that goes on in between, finding certain plays, little things like that. But I do love television too. Like, as much as I have a passion about sports, I love editing and the magic you can make, whether it's, movie, television, creating certain stories. I don't get to do as many of those long format stories as I used to, just as your job role changes and I get called to do news every so often. But I love the sit down interviews, a lot of research. I'll go into an interview with like 40 questions, and sometimes you ask 4 of the questions you wrote down. You're doing it. You're doing it right now. You get it. Yeah.
What questions next? No, it's really impressive. And the way that you interview people and you acknowledge what they're saying and you tee them up with a story and you ask great questions. It's a talent, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. Now, is AI helping with your kind of investigatory kind of process as you're trying to figure out things about players, or it's helping with the research side of things? A little
bit. Like I'll do a quick AI search every so often it helps me multitask.
Yeah.
I'm a good multitasker.
You do this, I'm going to do that.
Exactly. Like if I'm already have something and I'm writing it, I've got the 2 phones set up and I'll set up a little AI thing. The biggest thing that AI has helped me with, transcribing.
Okay.
My interviews, transcribe, because I'll know the soundbite I'm looking for. So then I'll transcribe an interview. Because sometimes, I had to take a 25-minute interview and either make it into a 2-minute story or a 7-minute interview. And I know the good stuff they said, but do I have to sit through it again? So the AI transcribing and the time codes. So I cut and paste.
And then you figure out what you want to keep.
It just saves me time.
Oh yeah.
It really does.
That's the big thing, is it's a time saver. It helps you to kind of, instead of you scouring the internet, searching for things, it's doing that, getting everything ready for you.
Exactly. Answer this question, cut and paste, and then I have it all curated. So that's kind of what I've been using it for.
I love that.
Yeah.
So obviously we have talked about the Knicks a little bit. I mean, we have so many Knicks fans. We're in New Jersey right now. You know, you're in New York every day. What behind the scenes moments really stood out to you in 2025 playoff season? Like anything that the fans maybe didn't see on camera?
So we're not allowed in their practices. So I that bums me because, and you know, rules change throughout the years. And when I worked for the team, I was.
Okay.
So I used to see player dynamics. So we're not allowed in practices,
But
but
I don't want you to see like
Tom
their
Thibodeau, you know,
plays?
it's secret,
Yeah.
you know, that, which is fine. We get it.
Yeah.
But,
You
I
interviewed Tom too, right?
I've never sat down with him. Just,
Okay.
you know, he's so intelligent. I mean, the basketball IQ, but he's also very dry and deadpan. He's a little more fun, not fun, but he'll give a little more early in the season. Like training camp is always
otherwise
we want to get the coaches. Now it's like, nah, coach's decision.
Business.
That's the answer. Coach's decision. Okay. But players I love and it carries over. And a lot of fans see this, but this is what's so unique and so special about this team because I've worked and covered so many teams. You've got this roommates podcast. Here we go, the podcasting world with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. The two of them went to Villanova together. They were roommates. They've continued this through their pro career because they were reunited by the Knicks. And that chemistry trickles down. That is how I think Karl Anthony Towns so quickly got assimilated into this team. You never get two superstars that quick because I saw it was a challenge when the Knicks brought in Carmelo Anthony where Amari Stoudemire was already there and he was the man. And then they brought in Tyson Chandler the year after Amari and then Carmelo came in and it was a wonderful big three. But how do they play together? You can even like each other, but there's a difference between, oh, I like him, he's cool, I'll play with him, but the chemistry and trust. You know, being the fact that these guys played college ball together helped in that aspect. And then they bring in Mikal Bridges, another Villanova guy. Even though they lost Dante DiVincenzo, it was a unique, and I did a great interview with Dante right before he was traded about that chemistry and how it carries over. And it is so much about trust and instinct because you build the instincts. And the fact that Kat was able to get that quickly assimilated into these guys that knew each other, even though Mikal Bridges was technically new to the Knicks, they had played together. They all knew each other. They would have Mikal on their podcast even when he was playing for the Brooklyn Nets. So that was the key to a lot of the Knicks' success this year. And credit to Towns, too. He had a lot to prove.
Strategy.
Coming home, grew up in New Jersey, coming home to play for the team that he watched on MSG as a little kid, which is crazy to think.
That's wild.
Yeah. So
I think there was, AI pulled this question for me, that you had a recent interview with the head coach, Tom, that AI doesn't know. AI made it wrong.
Ooh. I'm trying to
think. What insights did he share about the team's strategy against the Eastern Conference rivals?
You know what? Probably because I used sound bites from him from a practice.
Okay,
so it was like the 20 of us.
AI, you're not.
So that's what you have to be careful for today. We just learned our AI lesson.
That's it.
Yeah, so probably a sound bite that he had from practice last week.
Oh, that's cool. You mentioned, I think Hart, like you had a great interview with him and where he's
a fun interview. I mean, I've never, again, not one-on-one, but I love and I give and I respect players that don't know me well. When they give me a really good answer when they don't know me. And he gave me a great answer last week.
I don't know if you remember.
I was raving about it. I think it was a question about Towns because it was before their first home game. So this was before round one. And I was like, Josh, do you feel like you have to tell Karl Anthony, like it's a different atmosphere and the media is going to kill you, even if you, win the game and you have some bad stat. And he went through this whole thing about, I don't have to tell those guys. But he continued to answer the question.
Right.
And I thought that was really great about him. And also he's a podcaster. So he knows there's value.
He understands kind of like
answering,
that side of,
and telling a story from an answer. Like all he had to say is, nope, I don't have to tell him he's cool. But I don't have to tell him because.
Yeah.
And he went through all of that. Even, because he's played in obviously playoff situations, but what's unique about the Garden? And he said he grew up watching this stuff. So
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Like you grew up watching it and then you're there, just kind of similar to like your experience as a child. Like I could see that as a part of like your interview, like when you were interviewing for the role of like being the Fox Sports news anchor. Did you talk about that? Did you talk about that story? Yeah.
I think it's a huge advantage when you're from that area and you're fans of the team. It's also tumultuous when you're like a Giants fan, yet I was totally rooting for the Jets to go to the Super Bowl. And I really thought they would when they just, signed and traded, for Aaron Rodgers, and they
Yep.
had such a great defense, and they had all these young pieces. So I was just like gutted last year with the way things
Yeah.
turned out. Because like, no, I had everything invested in these great story ideas on the Jets. So, which is funny because I was a Giants fan growing up.
Okay.
Same
Love it.
thing. So it was rough for me in Boston when I first got there.
I could see that.
Because they were like, oh, you're a New Yorker, you're a Yankees fan.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, actually, no, I'm a Mets fan. But I was so afraid to say I was a Mets fan because the Mets beat the Red Sox in the
You're
86
like, I
World
don't even
Series.
watch baseball that
And
much.
that I know. And
I'm
like,
not a fan.
Yeah, I'm not a fan at all. And then I was kind of like an Orioles fan because I went to Maryland.
Okay.
Would go to Orioles
Yes,
games.
I saw that.
So I was like Orioles, Mets, but I didn't want to tell Red Sox fans I was an Orioles fan.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're in their division. But no, the key was not being a Yankees fan. So
Yeah.
it was brutal because then they found out my husband was a Yankees fan.
Oh
It was rough being in that market
yeah,
initially.
They didn't like you
Yeah. So that's why I think there's just such benefit when you grow up
in that area.
watching players. And then it's so cool when you get to interview them. Like pinch
Yeah.
yourself when I get to interview Adam Graves or get to interview Stephon Matteau. Like I think of the
Huge.
players that I watched when I was younger, or like John Starks and Allen Houston.
Yeah.
So they're former players now,
Huge.
but I grew up watching them. Same Derek Jeter. I mean, we're the same exact age.
Yeah.
But obviously,
Jeter.
like I'm going through my process of getting, in college, learning how to be a sports broadcaster. He's coming up.
Yep.
He's the rookie of the year. And then I'm doing a Fox segment with him,
Yeah.
all these years later,
That's
as
amazing.
like a colleague.
That's
So that's
amazing.
always fun. And at least you have that. Be like, I remember your first game because I was there and things like that. So
How about the Army Navy game? Like, is there any? I mean, that's one that like so many people just. I mean, they go to it every year. My sister's always there.
Nicole, we got to get you there.
I would love to go. I
It's
would
in
absolutely
Baltimore
love to
this
go.
year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's close. That's close. That's
Yes.
Not too bad.
Yeah. And it's always usually in this area, Baltimore. So the old locations would be like Veterans Stadium and Giants
Yes.
Stadium. So both of
Little
those are
bit-
gone now.
Yeah.
But between
Not
New
too bad.
York, MetLife was there a couple years ago, phenomenal. So still at Lincoln Financial Field in Philly. Last year, it was where the Commanders play.
Mhm.
So it was in Washington. This year will be where the Ravens play. 3 years
amazing.
ago, or 2 years ago now, it was up in Foxborough
Yes.
at Patriots at Gillette Stadium.
Yep.
We were all like, oh, wow, this is going to be different. It was awesome.
It
The
was great.
Kraft,
Oh, good.
Robert Kraft did a great job making sure his people
Mhm.
had it going. So it was wonderful. I mean, it is the one game, and this always gets me emotional every time. And these young teenage, some are 18, 19, young players, 2021, they say it, they know it.
Yeah.
It's the one sporting event where all of those athletes on the field are willing to die for
Mm.
everyone watching.
Yeah.
I mean, when they're 18 years old and they make that commitment to the military academy, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force,
Right.
they're committing to their country. They're working for the government the day they step on that base. It's actually a military base, whether you're
Yeah.
in Annapolis or West Point,
Right.
and they are committing to the country, and they get the great advantages of an Ivy League education,
Yeah.
high Division I, high level sports. They're
Yeah.
going to be officers the minute they graduate, and they have chances at being leaders, presidents, generals, and then they could go to law school and become incredible business attorneys. You don't
Right.
have to stay in the military.
Right.
You serve, but it is that risk that you will
Oh,
go to
yeah.
war.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with many of these former athletes that have gone to war and lost their lives.
Yeah.
So it's really poignant. It's powerful. They are such smart, just amazing men and women. I will interview a 19-year-old sophomore, say from the women's soccer team, or maybe she plays lacrosse, and they will bring those guests on the pregame shows to get other athletes
Oh, that's
integrated.
cool. Yeah.
Because I'm one of the co-hosts of the pregame shows
Yes.
for CBS, and my goodness, are they smart and
Yeah.
respectful? Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Mhm.
ma'am.
Mhm.
And the way they sit and present themselves.
Oh,
and
that's great.
every coaches meeting that we have on Friday, so we meet with the coach and they're say 2 players each week. And those players blow us away every time.
Wow.
Like one's not that they're smarter than the other, but who's in engineering and who's in bio warfare and who's in just like
Yeah.
different things who's pre-med.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
When you
what
think
they're
about going to
doing.
support that game, to be
Yes,
a part of that,
just great
and then you
humans.
hear some of their personal stories,
Yeah.
shift your perspective a little bit on just
Exactly
what it means to serve and to make
right,
that
whether it's an
commitment.
uncle or that maybe died in the line of duty, or it's they're following in their parents' footsteps. parents, maybe one of them went to one of the military academies, or they're trying to get out of their challenging, difficult situation. If it's an inner city situation, and they see this as an opportunity to get a great education, and they don't have scholarships. You go for free, but you're working. It's not free. You're working, and you have to serve. So, I mean, for some of those young people that get themselves out of those situations, and I hear those stories about, there was a young man a few years back whose his own father was in a police conflict situation, and he did die in that situation, but yet he has chose to go and serve and learn about, everything from law enforcement to government to, and it's just, what a story. And, both humble and brave.
Yeah. Instead of turning that into something, it could have been, wow. That's
so
amazing.
There are some great stories.
So how about for this is just so incredible. First of all, you've been all around sports, on the sidelines, in the studio, and it's just exciting to get to hear from you and if you're interviewing the interviewer here. But tell us, like, for people that are out there that may watch this, that want to get into journalism or want to be in the broadcast world, what advice would you give them?
Well, it is a changing landscape right now, whether it's news or sports.
Okay.
A lot of things are going digital. It's almost not that television's going away. It won't. But will it be over the top? Are the stations itself, whether it's a local channel like Fox 5 or a regional network like MSG Network or Yes Network or SNY, depending on which sports teams you follow, or ESPN. A lot of those things are really changing rapidly because of the digital world. So my advice to especially young students, and I encourage college students all the time, learn it all.
Right.
Learn how to report, be a sideline reporter and a play-by-play announcer, and to be a journalist. And also, if you want to do hot takes, learn how to have an opinion and back it up, even if it's controversial. Learn how to prepare yourself when they get back at you. Know how to edit for podcasts and digital on your phone, social media.
Are you contracted in the sense where, like, can you also go out and start your own podcast, your own channel?
So I am in a contract exclusively for Fox 5, and they have a podcast network. I was grandfathered in, and sports is a little different than news.
Sure.
So like a newscast reporter can't necessarily go out and report news for like another station, but I feel like if you watch anybody, I think Kenny Albert in the New York area is one of the best examples. And so is Michael Strahan. They work for 5 different networks because in sports, the NFL's on this network, and Major League Baseball's on Fox or on ESPN, and the NHL now shifted to TNT. So Kenny Albert's on MSG, TNT, NBC, Fox. So because that's where the sports are. So I was sort of grandfathered in with Fox 5. I already had my Army job at CBS Sports Network. And it wasn't a direct conflict because it's the cable network. It's not Channel 2 in New York City. So I'm not going up against Channel 5.
Right.
So that was sort of grandfathered in. It's very unique and it's on my personal time. So if something happens at Fox, that's the priority. And I've had to cancel games. I've had to not go to college football games because, the Yankees were in the World Series. Not complaining. The New York Liberty were in the finals. Not complaining. I can't go to that particular college football game because I have to be here. So I'm not complaining about that. Those are good reasons to give up. So that's what I'm able to do. So I'm also grateful that my network still allows me to do that a little bit with CBS.
Then that's great advice too. And it's nice to be able that you could have the diversity of networks to some extent. And it's interesting because I don't think that advice just stays with broadcast journalism.
Right.
It goes across all spectrums, especially in this world we're in. There's so much changing so quick. You have to be ready to change, to be agile. Like
be Swiss Army knife. Which knife are we pulling up now? Or which crown are we wearing today? Are we a news crown? Are we a sports reporter? Are we a sideline reporter?
But it's interesting because of all the guests and of the podcasts that we have, it's like that same message stands out to me so much, the agility that you have to have to be successful. Some people might just say, oh, well, look at her, she's on TV and every day, that must be nice, must be easy, but there's so much that goes into the back end of all of that, and there's so much sacrifice. Like, she's going to bed at 5:00, she can't watch the playoffs.
I can't. And normal nights I'd be in my bed with my laptop on and all the things they tell you in health. Don't be on the computer or your phone before you go to bed for an hour, like right up until okay, good, I'll write my script, the game will end, I'll send notes, close the laptop and go to bed for 3 hours
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah, that's
You
amazing.
know?
But
Yeah.
there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with the success, and you have to be ready to change and shift gears. And you do that so well, and love watching you. And
Thank you.
was so honored to be a part of the Pass the Crown Around event and get to meet you.
That was such a special event. So
Yeah.
many incredible people and women, that
It
were brought
really
together
was.
that day.
It really was. And you
Mhm.
deserve the crown.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate having you. It's been a great interview.
Nicole,
And
thank you for having me. I'm honored because I see the guests that you have, and I'm so
Yeah.
inspired by their careers and the success that you have had and your guests. And you're a great interviewer. You're a
thank
great
you.
journalist yourself.
See, I made it. This was
Yeah.
a tough one. So, and AI failed me a little bit, but thank you everybody for joining the Billion Dollar Banker podcast. All Tina's information will be in the description. Go check her out. She's amazing. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Nicole.